If you have ever been violently jolted awake in the dead of night, forced to throw off your heavy blankets and desperately stomp your bare foot against the cold floor just to stop the muscle in your calf from physically tearing itself apart, you are living with a terrifying, invisible ticking time bomb. The exact agonizing sensation I am talking about. It feels as though a thick biological steel cable deep inside your leg has suddenly snapped and violently coiled into a rock hard, excruciating knot. You are gripped by a terrifying Charley horse cramp, so incredibly severe, it forcibly points your toes downward, leaves you gasping for air, and makes the muscle sore to the touch for days afterward. You have been told your entire life by well meaning friends, sports coaches, and even your own primary care physician that these agonizing nocturnal leg cramps are simply the result of a potassium deficiency or mild dehydration, and that forcing down a banana or drinking an extra glass of water before bed will miraculously solve the problem. That is a devastating, scientifically bankrupt myth that completely ignores the catastrophic vascular crisis happening deep inside your legs. What you are actually experiencing has absolutely nothing to do with potassium. The terrifying reality is that your midnight leg cramp is the agonizing, suffocating scream of a muscle that has been completely cut off from its oxygen supply because the microscopic arteries feeding it are actively turning to solid bone. Today, we are going to expose the highly dangerous silent calcification process that is secretly causing your midnight muscle spasms, why the calcium supplements you take for your skeleton are actively making this condition worse, and reveal the exact fat-soluble biological key that instantly dissolves this arterial stone, restoring flexible, pain-free muscles while you sleep. For decades, older adults have been trapped in an endless, frustrating cycle of medical gaslighting when it comes to nocturnal leg cramps. You sit in a clinic, exhausted from waking up in agony every night, and the doctor casually suggests you drink more tonic water for the quinine or simply stretch your calves before you get into bed. When those superficial remedies inevitably fail, you are left carrying the heavy psychological burden that your aging body is simply breaking down, and that chronic sleep destroying pain is just the new normal. Let me completely shatter that burden of guilt and frustration right now. Your muscles are not cramping because you forgot to stretch, and they are certainly not cramping because you didn't eat enough fruit. Your body is executing a brutal, unavoidable physiological reaction to localized starvation. Your calf muscle is locking up because it is drowning in its own metabolic waste, trapped in a state of severe hypoxia, total lack of oxygen caused entirely by a hidden plumbing failure. To truly understand why your calf muscle violently locks into a rock-hard knot while you are completely unconscious, we must journey deep into the microscopic machinery of human movement. Every single muscle fiber in your body operates on a brilliant, complex system known as the sliding filament theory. Inside your muscle cells are millions of microscopic protein fibers called actin and myosin. When you want to flex your calf to point your toe, your brain sends a signal that floods the muscle with calcium. The calcium acts as a chemical trigger, causing these protein fibers to aggressively grab onto each other and slide together, shortening and contracting the muscle. But here is the critical biological catch that the medical establishment completely forgets to explain. Contracting a muscle is actually the easy part. Relaxing the muscle, forcing those tightly gripped protein fibers to let go and slide apart requires a massive, concentrated surge of cellular energy. This energy is called ATP, and your cells can only manufacture ATP if they have a constant, massive, uninterrupted supply of highly oxygenated blood. During the day, when you are walking around your house or grocery shopping, your heart is beating firmly, and gravity is helping to push a massive volume of warm, oxygen-rich arterial blood all the way down your legs to feed your calf muscles. The muscles have plenty of ATP, so they contract and relax smoothly and effortlessly. But a profound systemic shift occurs. The very second you lie down flat in your bed and fall asleep, your central nervous system enters its deep, restorative, parasympathetic mode. As a result, your resting heart rate drops significantly, and your core blood pressure naturally plummets to its absolute lowest point of the entire 24-hour cycle. In a healthy, youthful cardiovascular system, the arteries in the legs are wide open, elastic, and rubbery, easily allowing this low pressure, slow-moving blood to continue flowing deeply into the calf muscle to keep it supplied with oxygen throughout the night. However, as we cross the threshold of 55 and 60, a terrifying silent pathology heavily afflicts the peripheral arteries of our lower legs. This condition is known clinically as peripheral arterial disease, but the specific mechanism causing it is not just the buildup of soft cholesterol plaques. It is a process called arteriosclerosis, which literally translates to the hardening of the arteries. But they do not just get hard, they literally calcify. The delicate, flexible, smooth muscle lining your blood vessels becomes heavily saturated with rigid, solid calcium deposits. Your biological rubber hoses are actively turning into brittle, calcified concrete pipes. When your midnight blood pressure drops naturally, that slow, weak pulse of blood hits these narrow, calcified concrete pipes in your lower legs and simply stops. The arterial pressure is completely insufficient to push the blood through the stone-like blockages. The immediate catastrophic result is that your massive calf muscle is entirely cut off from its oxygen supply. This is a state of acute nocturnal ischemia. Without oxygen, the mitochondria inside your calf muscle cells instantly stop producing the ATP energy required for muscle relaxation. The microscopic protein fibers, lacking the energy to let go of each other, become chemically locked in a state of maximum contraction. The muscle is literally suffocating to death, and its final desperate biological response is to violently, uncontrollably spasm. This is the agonizing Charley horse that rips you out of your sleep. Your body forces you to wake up in blinding pain so that you will jump out of bed, stomp your foot on the floor, and force your heart rate to spike, desperately driving high-pressure blood back down into the starving tissue to break the hypoxic lock. It is a terrifying, violent survival mechanism. But why are your peripheral arteries turning to solid stone in the first place? This is where we must expose one of the greatest, most devastating nutritional paradoxes in modern senior healthcare. For the last 40 years, the medical establishment has aggressively pushed older adults, particularly postmenopausal women, to consume massive amounts of calcium supplements and heavily fortified dairy products to protect their thinning skeletons from osteoporosis. You are told to swallow these giant, chalky calcium carbonate pills every single morning, and you are likely taking a high-dose vitamin D supplement alongside it to ensure that the calcium actually absorbs into your bloodstream. You have been following the doctor's orders perfectly. The vitamin D does its job brilliantly. It acts like a massive biological sponge, aggressively pulling all of that calcium out of your digestive tract and dumping it directly into your bloodstream. But this is where the medical advice tragically stops, leaving you in a state of profound biological danger. Once that massive flood of calcium enters your blood, it requires a highly specific biological traffic cop to tell it where to go. It needs a chemical signal to guide it out of the bloodstream and lock it safely into the bone matrix of your skeleton. If you are deficient in this specific traffic cop, and over 90% of the senior population is drastically deficient, that massive flood of calcium becomes entirely lost and confused. It floats aimlessly through your circulatory system, completely unable to enter your bones. And because the body cannot tolerate high levels of free-floating calcium in the blood, it forcefully dumps the mineral into the softest, most vulnerable tissues it can find. It dumps it directly into the inner lining of your arteries, the delicate valves of your heart, and the microscopic vessels feeding your calf muscles. You are actively chemically turning your cardiovascular system to stone, causing the exact oxygen starvation that triggers your agonizing midnight leg cramps, all while your skeleton continues to quietly rot away. This tragic phenomenon is known clinically as the calcium paradox, starving bones and calcified stone-like arteries occurring at the exact same time. To permanently stop the agonizing nocturnal leg cramps, we do not need more bananas, and we certainly do not need to drink more water. We must deploy the missing biological traffic cop to actively dissolve the concrete blockages in your legs, restore the flexible, rubbery elasticity to your arteries, and flood your starving muscles with oxygenated blood while you sleep. We must utilize one of the most profound, life-saving, and heavily ignored fat-soluble nutrients in human biology. Vitamin K2, specifically the highly bioactive form known as MK7, vitamin K2 is the absolute master regulator of calcium in the human body. To understand its miraculous power, You must understand a specific, highly specialized protein that exists inside the walls of your blood vessels, known as matrix GLA protein, or MGP. Think of MGP as a microscopic biological claw. Its sole evolutionary purpose is to patrol the lining of your arteries, aggressively grab onto any rogue calcium deposits that do not belong there, rip them out of the soft tissue, and safely shuttle them back into the bloodstream to be delivered to your skeleton. MGP is your body's built-in vascular rust remover, but there is a massive, highly precarious catch. Your body produces MGP in an entirely dormant, inactive state. It is essentially a biological claw that is permanently locked shut. The absolute only molecule on planet Earth capable of unlocking this claw, activating the MGP, and turning it into a calcium scavenging machine is vitamin K2. If you do not consume enough vitamin K2, your MGP remains permanently asleep. The calcium from your diet and your supplements continues to endlessly pile up inside your arteries, cementing them into rigid, narrow pipes, suffocating your peripheral nerves, and starving your calf muscles of oxygen every single night. But the moment you introduce a high quality dose of vitamin K2, MK7 into your bloodstream, a profound biological reversal begins. The K2 acts as a chemical switch, violently waking up the dormant MGP claws throughout your entire cardiovascular system. Millions of these activated proteins instantly go to work. They scour the lining of the peripheral arteries in your lower legs. They physically bind to the rigid calcium deposits, dissolving the stone and pulling the mineral directly out of the arterial wall. As the calcium is systematically removed over a period of weeks, the smooth muscle lining of your blood vessels finally regains its youthful, rubbery elasticity. The concrete pipes are transformed back into flexible, wide-open biological hoses. Implementing this miraculous artery clearing protocol into your daily routine is incredibly simple, perfectly safe for the senior body, and requires zero physical exertion. You must acquire a high-quality vitamin K2 supplement, specifically looking for the MK7 menaquinone variant on the label, as this form remains active in your bloodstream for up to 72 hours, providing round-the-clock calcium regulation. Because vitamin K2 is a fat-soluble vitamin, it absolutely must be consumed alongside a meal that contains healthy dietary fats to ensure it is absorbed through the intestinal wall. Taking one capsule of vitamin K2, MK7 every morning with your eggs, a slice of avocado, or a spoonful of almond butter guarantees maximum bioavailability. As the vitamin K2 systematically dissolves the calcification in your legs, the transformation in your sleep quality will be absolutely miraculous. When your blood pressure naturally drops at 2 or 3 in the morning, your newly restored, flexible arteries will easily dilate, allowing a massive, warm, continuous flow of highly oxygenated blood to pour deep into the belly of your calf muscle. The mitochondria will have an abundance of oxygen to produce the ATP energy required to keep the protein fibers perfectly relaxed. The agonizing, suffocating hypoxia is completely eliminated. You will finally sleep deeply and peacefully through the entire night, completely free from the terrifying, violent spasms that used to rip you out of your dreams. You will wake up feeling profoundly rested, your legs feeling light, flexible, and powerful, knowing that you have brilliantly bypassed a massive medical misunderstanding and literally dissolved the invisible stone that was suffocating your mobility. You stretch your pain-free legs in bed, feeling a massive surge of relief and gratitude, and confidently step into your bathroom to start your day. You turn on the warm water, step into the shower, and reach for your favorite shampoo. But as you run your hands through your wet hair, a sudden, horrifying reality grips you. Massive, thick clumps of your hair effortlessly detach from your scalp, tangling in your fingers and washing heavily down the drain. You step out of the shower, look in the mirror, and notice that your scalp feels strangely cold. Your skin is painfully dry, and the outer third of your eyebrows has completely vanished. You have been told that hair loss is just the inevitable, depressing genetic reality of aging, but what if this sudden, massive shedding has absolutely nothing to do with male or female pattern baldness? What if those clumps of hair falling out are actually the catastrophic result of your thyroid gland being chemically suffocated by a highly toxic, invisible neurotoxin that is actively being pumped out of the very shower head you are standing under? To discover the shocking truth about the municipal water chemicals secretly destroying your thyroid and melting your hair, and the simple $10 bathroom fix that instantly blocks the toxin and forces your hair follicles to rapidly regenerate. Click the video on your screen right now.